Okay, another quick revision one about the midpoints of line segments. So the midpoint, obviously, it's just halfway. So let's have a look. Let's say I've got a line, I'm going to call it AB. Okay, so there's A, there's B. You can see that I've added a little bit of extra stuff. I've put in the midpoint, I found it there, and I've drawn in some extra bits just so that we can talk about them. So here's A, which is x1, y1. Here's B, which is x2, y2. And I've got point P, which is just xy. It's the midpoint. So what can I say about these things? Well, I can say that A to P is parallel to P to B. And I could say that PC here is parallel to BD. And I can say that PD is parallel to AC. So because they're all congruent, they're equal to each other, I can, if I'm measuring one thing, I can measure the other. So the long shot and the upshot of this is that if I want to find out just what the point of this x bit is, well, I can write it just like this. I could say, because all those things are congruent, I could say that x minus x1, so now x, remember, is my midpoint right here, x minus x1 will be equal to x2 minus x. I can do that. Okay, so I'm going to try and shift things around. I'm going to try and get this x to be by itself. So I'm going to add that x to both sides, which is what I do right here, x to both sides. And I will end up with 2x minus x1. I'm then going to take x1. I've already taken x1, so I'm going to add x1 to both sides. Very good. So I'm going to end up with 2x is equal to x2 plus x1. I am then going to divide both sides by 2 to get x by itself, and x by itself will be equal to x2 plus x1 divided by 2. Okay? I can then also say, very similarly, that my y point will be equal to y2 plus y1, because I would just do the same thing that I did up here. I would follow the same steps, but except with a y, and I would get the same answer. So anytime we're looking for a midpoint of a line section, we can say, if it's x1, y1 and x2, y2, that our midpoint is found using this little formula. x2 plus x1 divided by 2 and that's the x point for the midpoint, and then we've got y2 plus y1 divided by 2 is our y midpoint. Let's put it into practice. Let's actually see how this works. Okay, so we've got our 2 points. -2, 1, that's our first. 8, -3, we're going to name one x1, y1, x2, y2. I'm going to then calculate my x and my y's using that little formula that I used up here. X2 plus y2 divided by 2. So my x midpoint will be a 3 and my y midpoint will be a -1. And I would just write that answer like that. The midpoint would be 3, -1. Okay, so that's how you find the midpoint of a linear equation.